Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. So today I have a helpful tip video for you guys and kind of a mini review on this foundation because I have been using it a lot recently, and I did mention on the gram that it has been pretty much my go-to foundation for a while now. And when I first got it, I was hesitant because of my skin type and what this foundation promotes itself to do. This foundation that I'm talking about is the Loreal Pro Glow. This is their little alternative to their Loreal Pro Matte, which I also own. So this is the Pro Matte right here. This is the Pro Glow foundation. The Pro Matte obviously stays matte, and the Glow was marketed as more of a luminous foundation for those who have maybe dry to normal skin, who want that all day long wear foundation, but they don't want to be dehydrated, because if you are dry, that Pro Matte foundation is going to be your worst enemy. It does not look very flattering on dry skin. But for someone like me who's very oily, it was perfect. But I saw this foundation and I was like, that's so cool. I rarely see luminous foundations, especially as good as the L'Oreal Infallible Pro Matte. I already experienced how well that holds up. It really is long wearing. I really wanted to see if this one was going to be just as long wearing, but I was a little concerned because I am very oily, and this foundation is marketed towards those who have normal to dry skin. Let me just tell you a little bit about this foundation. It's also a 24-hour wear. It has SPF 15. It has a radiant finish. It's hydrating for normal to dry skin. Let me just tell you, any bottle that says that on a foundation, I'm usually like turned away, because I know my oily skin. I know for me, it's not gonna just look like radiant. It's gonna look like I'm wet, and I hate that because I feel like we're only limited to foundations that are gonna keep you matte, or mattifying foundations, when at the end of the day sometimes you just want to be glowy like everyone else. So I gave this foundation a shot anyway, and before I finally found a way to manipulate it, I was already really impressed by it. It is a much more loose, watery texture compared to the Pro Matte foundation, and the coverage is, I would say, medium, and it's definitely buildable. On the back here, it says that the finish is a radiant finish. It wears up to 24 hours. The coverage is medium and the texture is air light. I found these all to be very true. And it says never dull, never greasy. Of course, if you're oily, it is going to be very greasy. But that is what this whole purpose of this video is for. Today, I'm going to show you guys how you can take a foundation that is luminous or hydrating, and I'm going to show you to where you can manipulate it to where you have this radiant finish, which I still have from this foundation, but without the grease and without the overproduction of oil. By the way, this could be found at Walmart, Ulta, anywhere they sell L'Oreal. I believe it ranges from the $10 to $12 range, in case you guys want to check it out. This has become one of my favorite foundations, and it's my favorite because now I have a way that I can wear it without it being too hydrating. And without further ado, let's just jump right into it. I'm going to show you guys how I like to manipulate this foundation so it's wearable for oily skin. Ready? Let's go. Okay, so for the application, obviously I don't have anything on my face. I just have my eye makeup already on and my lashes. But a really important step when you're going to be wearing a foundation that is dewy or very hydrating or luminous, I like to make sure that I counteract their formula with a primer that's going to help suit my oily skin needs. So for me, I have found that whenever I use the Nivea Men Aftershave Balm as a primer, it actually does help keep me a little bit more matte as opposed to some other primers. Another good one, a more expensive version or high-end version of the Nivea Aftershave Balm, would be the Benefit Matte Rescue, which I do have, but it's in my makeup kit actually. So I personally don't use that one. I just save that for my clients. But for me, the Nivea Men works. I've gotten a whole bunch of different responses and feedback about this as a primer. For some people it upsets their skin, for some people it doesn't do anything. I've heard that it oxidizes their foundation even more. I'm not sure. I just know that it works for me. I think it's worth giving it a try since it is inexpensive, but at the same time you're trying it at your own risk. That's all I have to say. So I just take about like a dime size amount onto my fingers, and I just like to start to work this onto my skin. Just if you're oily, you know, find a primer that really does help mattify you, because it'll make all the difference. I personally like to apply this foundation with a damp beauty blender. Obviously, you don't have to use a damp beauty blender. I would suggest that if you want the most matte effect, you would want to put this on with a brush. But for me, I just love the way a beauty blender blends it out. So really, it's up to you. What I like to do is just kind of squeeze a little bit here onto the cap. By the way, I'm using shade 202, and it's still a tad dark for me, but it works. I then just like to apply the foundation onto the areas of my face like normal, nothing special. And then with my beauty blender, I'm just going to start to blend it all into my skin. So once the foundation is already blended out, I'm going to take my concealer and just conceal as normal. And same thing like how I use a primer to counteract the formula of the foundation, I'm going to take a concealer that also kind of has a counteracting effect to the foundation. So instead of using a very hydrating, illuminating concealer, I'm going to be using a very matte concealer. So I'm taking my Maybelline Fit Me concealer. I use the shade Fair. And I'm just going to conceal and highlight as normal, which is just under my eye area and below around my nose. Same thing, we're going to blend it out with the Beauty Blender. Okay, concealer is blended out. I look super pale and gross. We're basically going to resort to the baking method. Now, typically when I bake and when I've done my tutorials on here, you guys know that I pretty much just bake the areas where I concealed or highlighted. But a trick to change your foundation to a more, not necessarily matte foundation, but something that's going to work for your oily skin is I like to bake. But instead of just baking in only those certain areas, I'm actually going to bake the whole face. And I know it seems ridiculous. When I first heard of the idea, I thought it was a little bit much, but to my surprise, it works extremely well when you are oily and you want to wear a more luminous foundation. So I'm just making sure I don't have any crease lines. I'm using my KatEyedTv translucent powder. I almost dropped it, it would have been a big mess. I'm taking my damp beauty blender and I'm just going to be placing this, I'm just place it under my eyes first because that's the place that will get all creased up if I don't watch it. And then basically with my beauty blender, picking up more powder, I'm just going to start to apply this all over my entire face. It looks crazy, it looks ridiculous, I get it, you know? If you are someone that you feel like this is just way too much work, by all means, you don't have to do this. Obviously, if you're dry, you don't have to do this. But if you are oily and you want to wear those luminous foundations where you have that nice little glow, but you're not risking having to look like an oil slick at the end of the day, this is what will fix your problem. That's all I'm going to say. Keep in mind, I didn't cream contour. Usually if I'm wearing a foundation that is more hydrating or luminous, I will skip out on cream contouring and just only do powder contouring, because I find that if you cream contour, it may add to the moisturizing effect to your foundation, and it's just going to be that much more difficult to keep you looking subtly glowy, not extremely oily. By the way, I used my KatEyedTv powder, and like I said before, this is very inexpensive. It works well, at least for me. You can find this at Walmart. It can be tricky to find, not gonna lie, but it's there at Walmart, I promise you. Alright, so just like how we normally bake, I'm gonna let this sit on my face for a few minutes. I'm gonna do my brows and I'll be right back. Alright guys, it's been a couple minutes and obviously brows are on finally. Look a little bit more normal. And I'm just taking a big powder brush and I'm literally just going to kind of blend all the baking we did away and just into the skin. And after doing this, your skin looks so smooth. And right now, since we just blended everything away, it does look very matte. But just give it a few minutes, and like I said, if you're oily, your natural oils are going to push through and it's going to look perfect. So until then, and while that's happening, this is the part where I'm going to do my makeup like normal, just continue to finish it off. And everything I'll be doing from here on out is just going to be with powder products. So once I have my makeup on, I will be right back. Okay, so my makeup is on and finished. The last thing that you're going to do once your makeup is completed is you need a really good setting spray. I'm going to be using my Urban Decay D-Slick because this helps oil control. I typically use the all-nighter, but especially for this type of foundation, this setting spray is going to do a much better job at keeping me from being super shiny. So just going to spray generously. And that's basically it. And guys, that pretty much completes how to keep your oil controlled when using a more luminous or moisturizing foundation. Even with using this type of foundation, I know my makeup is going to stay, it's still going to have a luminous effect to it, which is why I bought this foundation, obviously. But for someone that's like me and has oily skin, it's not going to look completely wet or like an oil slick at the end of the day, which can be really frustrating, nor are you going to have to be continuously blotting. So this is going to help keep you right in that sweet spot where the foundation is doing what it's meant to do, but you've manipulated it enough to where your skin type is not going to interfere with it. So I hope this helps you guys. Please let me know if you try these tips down below and what your experiences are when working with a more luminous foundation when you are oily skinned. And I just hope this helps you. Also, don't forget to subscribe to my channel, give this video a thumbs up. It would really mean a lot to me. And that's basically it. I'll see you guys in my next one. Bye guys.